Greetings, African people. For one of my subscribers, I think his name is Dogan. I remember the last part, but I don't want to say it in case he doesn't want to be put out there like that. But Dogan, you inspired this video today because of a question that you asked me. I'm going to read a part of that. I'm not going to explain all the conversations we've been going back and forth with, but you said, how come you didn't move to Africa then? Hmm? If everyone, you yourself, should be taking your own advice, why didn't you move back to Africa? Very profound question and statement because a lot of times as African people, we always talk about Africa and talk about our connections there. And the question always comes up, why are you here? You know, the Rastafarians in Jamaica are asked all the time. This Back to Africa movement started with Marcus Garvey, and the question is why don't you go back there then if you don't like, white supremacy, or if you don't like to live in, you know, the societies where Black people are oppressed. The trouble with that reasoning is that if you're going to go to Africa to get away from that, then you're in trouble because as it stands, there is no land that belongs to the African. There are Black people in South Africa that are being beaten and chased out. I hear white men in Africa saying these Africans need to go back where they come from when they were celebrating some public event in South Africa. I hear that. I see that all the time. I see a documentary recently that I tried to upload. I was not able to do it because it was blocked. And this woman has a part in South Africa where she said only whites can live. If I can find that link, I'll put it here so you can watch it for yourself. It was quite nauseating and quite upsetting. And I wanted to post it because I wanted to show that the folks on my channel that always come to say that this whole racism thing is in my mind, to say, no, it's not that different. Things have not really changed that much. We have exchanged power. We have had a shift in dynamics of sorts, but everything that changes remain the same, really. So in terms of answering the question, why don't you go back to Africa? First thing I want to let you understand, Dugan, I'm from Jamaica, the beautiful island of Jamaica that I grew up in until I was in my early 20s when I migrated. And up until that point, I'm going to admit, because that is my truth, that's my reality. Up until that point, Africa symbolized nakedness and disease. It was a dark continent. It's that backward place. Unfortunately, in the African diaspora that I lived in, Jamaica, the place that has declared independence since 1962 and emancipation that they fought for, these individuals taught me that Christopher Columbus was a great explorer. This country and this education taught me that anything that's too Black is not good. And to this day, that is still the philosophy of many in my country. I see in my country that the people who are 90% population are the poorest, the ones treated the worst. They're the slum lords and, some lords, not slum lords. Some lords actually own place. They are the slummers, the persons who are displaced, who have no true agency. And their experience in that space showed us that if you are light skinned or if you're white, you're going to be the dominant group. You're going to be the one who controls the means of our survival and our existence. It's that Jamaica that I left from. So I migrated to Canada, came here because someone sponsored me to this space. And perhaps if the person was in Africa, that's where I would have been. I was not a conscious person. I mean, as a young person, my thing was more spiritual. It was more my spirituality that was more awakened. And it was a kind of spirituality that I reject right now because that was a Christian mindset. So Christianity and the environment in which I grew up caused me to see Africa as that dark place that many of us didn't want to associate with. Now, I don't think I've ever gotten to that extreme where I looked at Africa and said, these people are not the same people as me. But the stuff that I was learning caused us to look at our heritage and to be ashamed of it. Flies swarming, bang belly kids in, I think at the time, Ethiopia and Somalia. These are the images that the media have projected of Africa to this very day. And now we know when you look at Africa, there's no place in the West or in Europe that is more developed, that has more resources, that more or more wealth than different places in Africa. And so you find even Black people in Africa are deceived because, again, this whole enslaved mindset, this whole, diseased mind is not just from people who are removed, but people who actually live there. And so you see people in Africa who are wealthy are seduced to go to London to buy overpriced houses just so that they can tell the people back in Africa that they have arrived, that they are wealthy and influential, and that's how they seek their acceptance. Many sell out their lands in England and they move to, sorry, in Africa, and they move to England to live the real good life. But the thing is, while they're doing that, Europeans and other folks, Indians and Chinese, are moving to Africa because they know something, they appreciate what Africa has to offer. So it isn't that I have not come to the point now where I would want to live in Africa. But with my resources, if I'm going to keep it realistic, I have to be able to plan my way so that when I go, I do not return. Africa is home to me, even though I've never been there. And there was something in my mindset where I know Europe. I made an effort to go to Europe, but I never went to Africa because I am also a product of that brainwash. This is why a lot of times when I'm talking about things, I say we, I include myself. I'm slowly coming out of it. And had it not been for tribulations and trials, had it not been for systematic racism, had it not been for having personal relationship with individuals that are racist, I wouldn't be the way I am. And so I am thanking these individuals for, behaving untoward me, for showing me hate in the form of racism. Because had it not been for that experience, I wouldn't be the person who I am now. So I agree with you, Dogan, that Africa is something that I should look into, a place where I could call home. It is my desire. Functionality and creativity and mortality binds that place to me. Many of us as African people, our minds are entangled with these webs of lies. And it takes a natural effort, hard work actually. Because every time you think, okay, I'm not there now, I have moved past that stage. You have these stages where you come and you say, okay, now I'm not doing that anymore. Now I know that's not true. Now I separate myself from that lie. You find there's something else that's holding you back. Because it's hundreds of years of brainwash. When you turn on your television screen in a country such as this one, that is peaceful, that is multicultural, and yet I could watch my television for days and not see any representation of Black people. None. And if I do, it's negative, like that commercial with our athlete, I forget his name now, that one who was, challenging Bolt in the race. That young man ran for this country, and perhaps if he was in America, he would have gotten some great endorsement. Right now, his endorsement comes from Pizza, and the guy got to do what he got to do. He got to make money anyhow he can. But the representation of this young man who ran for this country shows him delivering friggin' pizza. If that is not the role of a servant, I don't know what is. This guy who could potentially become, a 100-meter record holder in the future because he is on his path to greatness. His offer was to deliver pizza. Let me tell you something. I want to tear up this place with some bad words. I want to cuss. I don't like not being able to curse. I don't like being censored because some things can only be explained with bad words. So the struggle is everywhere. Black people are not accepted, and we are not accepting ourselves. So to answer you, Dugan, I'm not ashamed of Africa. I would live in a split like this if I had the opportunity or the resources to go there. Now, if I was single, and I'm not talking about my husband, I'm talking about if my two girls that are older now and on their own, if I had no more children, I have a smaller one who's 9 now. If I didn't have her, I'd be gone like this. I'm leaving with a bag. I'm that type of person. I don't care. I'm finding myself in Ghana, and I'm going to figure it out from there because I have some skills that I could transfer there. But when you have a family, it's hard to just get up and root up, But it's not about making excuses, though, but you have to be responsible in the choices you make, especially when you have your children. It is a future hope to visit, and if the opportunity come to live, that would be a wonderful blessing. Be blessed, African people. I'm coming back with a video showing one of my favorite artists, and I want you to check her out. Her name is Itana, and she got into a firestorm recently. I spoke on it recently, briefly. Got in a firestorm, and individuals are coming down on her. But the reason why I'm going to post it, I want you to understand that this thing is real. That someone who sings those conscious music could actually get caught up in this whole thing to where she's referring to herself as we when she talks about America and about the Mexicans that are coming there. The thing is so deep that this black woman, this conscious black woman, is caught up with, profiling other persons of color and saying that this one should not be here and that one should be here or whatever, not realizing how can you live on the First Nation land? How can you live in the First Nation people's country who are removed from the natural environments? Well, they are sticking in their community by purpose. It's not by accident. But they're no longer visibly present. And you as an African person live in this space and start to declare war on other person's right to be there too. So we have problems as Black people. I want you to go and listen to her songs. One of my favorite ones from her is Wrong Address. My thing is, I disagree with some of the things she said, but Itana, I'm saying that we all make mistakes, and maybe it was not a mistake. Maybe it was feelings that you had to confront. But at the end of the day, it goes to show that no matter how intelligent or articulate or educated or rich we are as Black people, we have the same mindset, and that is what's keeping us away from freedom. We are still shackled in our hands and feet and mind. This channel is not for everybody. I'll be talking about this forever and a day. This is only for people who can stand here and the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, same thing in circles, same thing. Because as a Black woman, every time I look in the mirror, I am Black. Every time I get up, I live and eat and breathe. I am African. Everything about me is African. Is my whole life. The embodiment of who I am is Black. So every day it's about Black life. Every day. And I'm not asking someone to acknowledge my life and to tell me that it matters, because if I don't make it matter to me, it's not going to matter into anybody else using their platform that they gave me to speak on freedom and rights and equality and justice, but not waiting for them to give it to me, for me to take it. Be blessed, African people. Think on these things.